Greetings, this is Anthony Kaiser, the library liaison to the Crisis and Disaster Management Program, among many others. And this is a quick, I hope, overview of Google Scholar and how it works and how you can use it. Now, Google Scholar is different from regular Google. It indexes different parts of the web. It tries to determine academic sources. Not really clear. I did some digging. I really couldn't figure out exactly how it determined that something was an academic source. All I can say is when I look at the results, they make sense to me as a librarian. But you can kind of get an idea from their articles about COVID-19 that they've added that, they're looking at like the CDC, so a government website, JAMA, which would be a big time journal, medical journal, as is the Lancet, a Nature, a major science journal, Elsevier, they are publishers of academic resources, as is Oxford and Wiley. So Google is sending its little web crawlers out to look at these websites, and as they will say, they find articles and not journals. And so that, from a librarian's point of view, that makes sense. It's a little bit different than how a typical library database might work, because the indexers would look at an entire journal run in each issue and pull the articles from it. But Google is not that concerned with articles and getting everything potentially in a journal. They probably do, but they may not. So it probably, from a user standpoint, just a typical academic user, isn't going to be a big deal. I hear a lot of faculty use Google Scholar and are pretty happy with it, so I think that it does what they need it to do. But you might have to go into a library database if you wanted to be really thorough about your search. So anyway, I'm already logged in. You can see my little profile pic here. I'm already logged into Google with my UCM login, which you can see from my profile. Because I'm a faculty member with publications, I can verify my UCM address and that this is me. And here are 3 articles. I've published more, which just goes to show that this does not get everything. I have more articles published, but clearly the web crawlers don't look at those journals, or they're not picking up my name. And I really haven't delved deeply into that. But this is a fun way to, if you can figure out if a faculty member or has, or a researcher that you really like, if you can figure out what name they're using, and especially if they're verified in Google, you can look at their page, you can look at their citations, and you can follow them. And so anytime something new comes out, you would know about it. But for me, I think, this is interesting because it does show, the amount of times the article that you've written has been cited, which these numbers aren't very high, as we'll see. They're okay for a librarian, but I did notice just in preparing this that this article has been cited a few times in the last year, even though it's almost 8 years old, because it's about synchronous virtual reference, and that's a big thing now with COVID. So I'm getting cited again. So anyway, back to the main page here. So the first thing you should do, if you're going to use this, is go to this little 3 bars here and click on that, and go down into settings. And when you're in settings, you can set a few things like, hey, I want you to search articles, including patents, if that's what you want. I want to search case law as a default, but we'll stick to articles. But what you really want to do is you're going to go to library links, and you want to search for the University of Central Missouri. And I would, for sure, this one I was testing out, the ProQuest full text, it wasn't working very well. but I would for sure click on the full text at my library and the access through UCM and save that. And we'll see how that works in a second. So let's do a search. This works just like Google. So I'm just going to pick Joplin tornado. And 4,710 results for the Joplin tornado. That's pretty good. If we wanted to, that's pretty specific search. I was trying some very general searches before, and I was getting hundreds of thousands of results. But this is obviously the Joplin tornado. Everybody knows what we're talking about, and it's a very specific event, so the number of results are much lower. But if you wanted to just see more recent articles, you could control by the time period or set up a custom range. You could also sort by date, but I didn't find this very useful. Might not be so bad for the Joplin tornado, but it will give you the most recent things first, but the relevance kind of goes away, and I find the relevance to be much more useful in this. So I would probably just use the time constraints here. If you're wanting to pay attention to what's going on with the Joplin tornado in terms of research, you could create an alert which will set up the query. I might get rid of the end title Joplin tornado and just say Joplin tornado. I think that may have been because I was playing around with the relevance. So that would set up that search. We might be more specific and say Joplin tornado, maybe give the date to make sure that it's focusing on the thing that we want there. But you can play with that. I would play with the search a little bit before you set up the query. But then, I can just put my email address in and create the alert. And anytime anything new comes up with the Joplin tornado, then I would get sent the article, or at least a link to the article, in my mail. So that's helpful. So here in the center, obviously, are the results of my search, and this is pretty much all you're going to see with Google Scholar. If you click on the title, it's going to try to take you to the page where the article was found, either the abstract or the full article. So you can't be sure that the article is going to be available in full text. But what we can tell from this is we can tell that what the title is, we can see who the authors are, and since there are links here, these are authors that have pages in and who are verified, so we can see their page and all of the things that they've written. But as you can see, some people haven't done that, and so they wouldn't have links available. We can see an abstract. This isn't complete abstract. We can also see, where it came from, the journal, and the database that they were looking at. So that can be helpful as well. So this tells me it's coming from JSTOR. So just if I wanted to save this article, say I think this is a good article, I could save it, and it's gone into my library, which there's a link up here, and you can see I've got a couple of articles saved here in the library. There's also a citation. Not so sure about this. This does give you some options, MLA, APA. This APA does not look like it is the latest version, or at least it doesn't have a DOI, which is fairly typical right now. So I'm not sure. I mean, this will definitely, you can copy and paste this. It'll definitely get it written down. I'll show you a different option for doing the citations here in a second, but this will at least get you close. But I would always double check it with whatever the style manual says. So we have also click to related article links. So this will just, give us articles along the same lines. Probably going to be a very similar search. As a matter of fact, it looks like it pretty much gave us the same thing, or very similar things. You can see the different versions. So this is different places on the web where they found this particular article. So it looks like it's been in JSTOR, also looks like it's in ProQuest. It's on this papers.ssm.com site. So the paper may appear in multiple places, and so that can be useful because it could give us access to it in a different, if one database won't give us access, another database might. And what we're looking for if we want full text immediately is we're kind of looking for this HTML indicator, or we might see a PDF indicator. I'm not seeing one on the first page. But if we see those indicators, HTML or PDF, the link will probably take us right to the full text. But that's not always going to be the case. We see a lot of these don't have a direct link, so we're going to have to find it in a different way. So yeah, let's talk about that, and then I'll talk about the citation issue. So when I said click on the full text at my library, the access through UCM, it was because that will connect Google Scholar to the library's database where we might have access. It will also connect you to our interlibrary loan system. So this one, it says it's in ProQuest, also in JSTOR. So there's a pretty good chance that we actually have this in one of our databases. And the fact that it says full text at my library here is a pretty strong indicator that if we have it, unless there's some sort of glitch. So let's see. Yep, I click on it and it's taking me into ProQuest, and here is the full text of the article. You can also go to, this site has it, so anywhere along on the right side of the page, any of these links should take you to the article in whatever format they say, like PDF. But the addition of full text at my library means that it will take you to the UCM holding of that particular article, where you should be able to get it in full text. And there we go. Not much of an article, but there it is. Now, if it's not available, say there's nothing here, so there's no link for it. I'm not sure I like this as an example. Let me find something in a straight up library. It looks like this one isn't available anywhere. It's pretty new, from 2020. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click Request through UCM. Sorry, I'm going to click Resources at my library, not Request through UCM. The Resources at my library will take you to, will actually look for the article, but it won't find it because we don't have it. And then the important thing is it takes you to this page with the link to the JCKL interlibrary loan. So if I click on that, I will have to do my single sign-in. If you haven't signed in already, it'll ask you for basically your email sign-in. And then it will take you into interlibrary loan, where the page will already be filled out for you. The request is filled out for you. So all you have to do is set a date for how long you can have to wait, any comments, and then submit the request. And it will come through interlibrary loan. They'll find it and then send you an email saying it's available in your account. So that's why you want to click on those additional libraries at the beginning there. But it looks like Resources at my library is the one that's working, and not the Request through UCM. So sometimes these things don't exactly sync up very well. So let's talk about citations. First off, in terms of keeping all of these articles, collecting them, getting the citations right, you can use the My Library feature to save them. I've kind of leaned toward now using a free piece of software called Mendeley, It's just Mendeley. Just look that up. But if you see right up here, I have a web importer extension on my Chrome for Mendeley. I'm just going to click that, and I just put this on this computer, so I have to sign in. So you create your own account and then sign in, and it will actually take all of the data from this page and give you the opportunity to add that those citations and maybe even the PDFs into your Mendeley account. So they give you about 2 gigabytes of free space, cloud space for that. I won't get into actually accessing them from the software, but it will go into the cloud and then sync up with my software on this page. So that's one way to save the information, and also probably get a more accurate citation out of this data. But the last thing I want to talk about real quick is using the citations to find other articles. And we can look at, articles in the past from this one, say from 2013, or we can look at articles in the future. And looking at the articles in the future, at least from 2013, is the tricky part. That's pretty hard, although Google solves the problem for you, and it has a cited by feature, which is really nice, because this will tell us, at least of what Google has found, the 62 articles that cite this particular article. So if I just click that, here are the articles, or even the books, where there's a citation of this particular article. So that is really nice way to find all of the articles that came after this one. Finding the ones that come before this, these writers cited, you have to actually go into the article, and it can be trickier. It's a little bit easier in some of the databases, a little harder just with Google Scholar, because you have to find the actual works cited page of the bibliography. It doesn't look like they're going to give it to us directly, so I'm going to have to go into full text. And they have, in this case, they call it the references. So if I click on that, it's a little slow. If I click on that, it will give me the references in this particular article. So there were 47 articles or books or whatever cited, and here they are. Now, they have a find a copy in ProQuest, and that would give you the option to search for item at JCKL or use Interlibrary Loan. So I would do this. I would search for the item at JCKL if we have it. It would give you a link to it. This one looks like a bad link. So let's try a different one. A lot of it will depend upon the metadata here. It's not perfect, and it looks like it's having a problem. So it might be just easier to take the data, like the title, and plug it into Google Scholar and see what you find. Sometimes if it's available in the database itself, you can get the full text right away, but it's a little bit trickier. But I would get the title, the year that it was published, and then you can probably track it down relatively easily with Google Scholar or with the library databases. So that's a very general look at how Google Scholar works. And I think the important thing is to remember to go to scholar.google.com and not google.com, because google.com will search all of the web pages, and Scholar only searches, again, the academic pages. So I would just experiment with it, see what you can find, and always pay attention to, on the right side of the page, the links that would take you to either our databases or free databases where these might be available. These articles would be available. So happy searching, and feel free, obviously, to ask any questions. My email is akaiser@ucmo.edu, and if you have any questions or issues with this, just let me know, and we'll be happy to see what we can do to fix the problem. So